Chapter 12 deals with business intelligence, and no, I know it sounds kind of funny. It's almost like an oxymoron, combining the two words business and intelligence. Actually, this is an area where technology really plays an important role. Compared to all the other things we've looked at so far, this is probably one of the best uses of technology, as we need to make informed decisions in a very much faster way than it has been possible in the past, and that's where automation and computers and technology really assist the business professional. In order to really take advantage of business intelligence, you do still have to have a good process for making decisions in the first place. And I like what the author shows here in the diagram, that you start by examining what is the problem. Oftentimes people end up solving the symptom rather than getting down to the root cause of the problem that generated the symptom that has everyone concerned. So make sure you're dealing with a problem, not just a symptom. And then look at all the options. And by this, the operative word there is all options. Don't exclude options because, well, management would never approve that, or we don't have a budget for that, or we don't have time to do that. Look at all the possible options, decide what the best alternatives are, and then you can look at and say, but can we really make that happen or not? Oftentimes the best solution gets discounted early on when, in fact, if you go to senior management and present, say, here's the best option we've got for addressing this, but it will require some infusion of money. Amazingly, if it's a good solution, senior management can sometimes find ways of funding a project that you didn't think were possible. So don't discount stuff too early. Once you get around to making your choice and you have management approval, though, you do enter into that verification and testing of the proposed solution. If at all possible, you want to do a pilot run. You want to validate some key assumptions that you made on this before you do a full-blown implementation. And once you then actually do say, yeah, this appears it's going to work, and so you implement it, then you need a feedback loop that analyzes, am I getting the results that I expected to from this change? If you are, then hallelujah, you got success, it worked. If not, you need to go back and reevaluate. What did we miss? Did we make an incorrect assumption? Why aren't we getting the results that we expect? The key here is this all needs to happen very quickly and rapidly, and that's where technology can really assist us. So as I mentioned, there's a number of reasons why management has turned to IT to assist them in this process. The alternatives are constantly increasing. In a global economy, there are so many different possible alternatives, and it just keeps growing every day. As I mentioned earlier, we're in a very fast-paced business cycle now. You have to make quick decisions. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the global economy right now. Greece has a problem with repaying some of their loans, and it affects the whole market. We're a lot of volatility, things that are very difficult to see in advance. And being in a remote global economy means a lot of time the decision makers are not going to be physically in the office all the time. They may be out working with key suppliers or key customers, but they still need to be able to make that real-time decision. It can't wait until they get back into the office. One of the popular tools for business intelligence with small startup companies are tools, the standard Excel spreadsheet. It actually has a lot of powerful tools, graphing capabilities, statistical analysis. It's a pretty powerful workhorse. And there are some very interesting plugin modules you can get for Excel that assist you in building dashboards and monitoring key information, linking to external databases. So if you're not familiar with that, take some courses in Excel as to how you can leverage the powerful capabilities of that. But for larger organizations, they tend to have optimized specific dashboard software that's looking at their key metrics, and there's a number of suppliers and vendors that have some very good, very excellent systems. So one term you'll hear is OLAP, and I just bring it up. You know, it's a fancy term. It just says that it allows you to real-time look at your data from very different perspectives. You want to see sales by region, then you want to see sales by part number, then you want to see sales by salesman, then you want to see the sales by time of day of the week. All those different ways of looking at the same information. That's multidimensional analysis, sometimes referred to as online analytical processing. Another term you'll hear is data mining. And this has really got two aspects to the term. One with data mining is you use past information to predict trends that you see coming. Probably the best example of this, you look at people predicting what the stock market's going to do. They're looking at particular historical data, comparing it to how things are now, and then trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. The other aspect of data mining is you go out to the data and you just start analyzing it, trying to find relationships that may exist that you weren't aware of before. Gee, I never realized until it, started looking at this data this way that, there's a seasonality with our customers. When I looked at my customer sales compared to their fiscal calendar, not all companies have a tax year that goes from January 1 to December 31. Some, their fiscal year starts September 1st, some March 1st, all over the map. But one thing you find when you start looking at orders based in relationship to how many months they are into their fiscal year, months 11 and 12, the orders fall off. And then month 1 and 2, orders spike up. And that's pretty common behavior that companies, as they get close to the end of their fiscal year, they will tell everyone, put a hold on purchases, delay the purchases until after the end of the year. They're doing that to make the books look as good as possible for investors. And so data mining can help uncover relationships like that you might not have realized before. And of course, decision support systems, in my mind, this is what business intelligence is all about. It's helping me as a business person make a better decision. And some of the tools are used in that. First one's sensitivity analysis. And this allows me to analyze the data and say, what if I'm wrong on my sales estimate by 5%? What impact does that have to the bottom line? You will find in some things, if you're wrong by just a very small amount, it has very big implications in the rest of the business. And so you want to know how sensitive is that particular parameter that you're looking at. How much impact does it have? And the ones where it doesn't matter much, you say, well, the cost on that bolt, it could vary plus or minus 50%, and it has virtually no impact on the total cost of the machine. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to negotiate better prices on that bolt. But if I find a 5% change in the cost of that circuit board eats up 25% of the profit margin on that item, I'm going to focus on that circuit board. So that's sensitivity analysis. You want to find out what is the impact if I get it wrong on that particular item. How much impact does that have on the key parameters I'm interested in? Another one that's used in business a lot is what if, and actually Excel was originally built to answer that question. What if? What if I increase sales by 20%? What does that do to the bottom line? What if we give our hourly workers a 15% increase? What does that do to the bottom line? Anytime you hear a question, what if, that's a really good opportunity to use Excel to assist you in answering that, because it allows you to create pretty easily. You can build different scenarios, and so you just go in and change a couple of key numbers, and then you see what are the results there. Well, what if we moved the manufacturing to Mexico? What would happen then? What if we combined these two product lines? What if we kept the factory open 24/7? And we'll go over this in class. Another tool that Excel has built into it, Excel has a lot of powerful tools, and I told you at the beginning of this class, this is not a class about Excel, but this is one tool I want to show you. I've used it a lot during my career when I need some simple calculations done very quickly. I can use a goal-seeking analysis to get me to the answer very quickly without having to estimate and go back and forth. The one limitation is, we'll see when we get into class, is that it only allows me to change one thing at a time. So if I've got a situation where I can say, well, what if I increased sales of drinks, can I get to my profit margin targets? And we'll go over that in class. But what it doesn't let me do is say, could I increase sales of my drinks, and because of the increased sales, negotiate with my vendor for 5% reduction and reach it? As soon as I start changing more than one variable at a time, the built-in goal-seeking tools in Excel don't really handle that. Dashboards are really great because most businesses, the data that's available and the different things that you can look at, there are hundreds of different metrics that you could look at in any business, and how can you keep track of all of them? And the answer is you can't. And so the concept of a dashboard was developed where it says we're going to take some of the most important measurements and display them visually so that I can, in a 2-second glance at a screen, see, does everything look okay? If it does, fine. I go back to doing whatever I'm doing. I only drill down and look in more detail if something is flagged as being out of what my expectations are. On the list here of capabilities of dashboard, there's a couple that I think are really important. The first is key performance indicators. Of all the dozens, if not hundreds, of different things you can look at, there are a few of them that really tell you the health of your organization. Those are the key ones that you want to keep close track on. Most organizations, sales is a key performance indicator. I want to know what is going on with sales on a daily basis, just to see that everything is the way we expected it to be. Nothing seems to be out of line. Now, kind of a closely linked one to that is the bottom one here, exception reporting. And the concept of exception reporting is that if everything is operating within the parameters I expect, so I expect the quality output of my factory floor to be, to vary. Some days I'm going to have 100% pass final QC. Some days maybe it's 98%. And I've established parameters that says, if the quality is 95% or better, that's normal. And so don't bother me. If it comes as 96, I don't care. I expected it to be between 95 and 100, so that's fine. But if it drops down to 94, I want to be notified. So you don't focus on, you aren't distracted by things that are working the way you expected them to work. Most things in business are not 100%. They don't perform exactly the optimum way all the time. There's some variation. And that's the concept of tolerance, when you will say the length that we can cut this pipe to is 10 feet plus or minus 1/8 of an inch, because we can't hit 10 feet exactly every single time. Okay, next. This is an example of a dashboard. As you can see, there's visual, funnel chart here, there's traditional bar charts, and then down at the bottom here, key performance indicators that I talked about on the previous slide. And you notice they've got a green band area here, so cost per sale. We're saying anywhere between 200 and 300, that's fine. I don't care, as long as it's staying within that. So that's a good example of some key performance indicators. You see it's on a summary tab. If I wanted to zero in specifically on marketing or the website, I could go into those tabs, but this is really a high level for my particular, in this case, it's a web-based, e-commerce site. And we'll look at a video in class that goes into a little bit more in depth on that. Here's another example, same idea. You'll find different vendors, they give you different tools as to how the different graphics are displayed so that you can see what's going on. Really depends upon your data as to what's the best way to visually display it. And then here's an example. This is what's called a management cockpit. So you've got your senior management team in there, and you notice there's displays in front of each of the chairs that are doing things, and you've got all these different things displayed around here so that at any point in time they can zero in on something that needs their attention, that they need to look at and see what's going on here, what do we need to do, and so forth. So it can be a very complex display. If you've ever seen the inside of a nuclear power plant, it very much looks like this, or inside of NASA within their control room. There's so much information being displayed on different screens and monitors. And that's it for Chapter 12, Business Intelligence. As I indicated, we'll look at some videos in class, including one of my favorite videos. It's actually presented by a Swedish health professor, dealing with how you can display very complex data in a graphical format. And after watching a little bit of his presentation, you will all be better informed on infant mortality rates around the world than most doctors are.